And so the general counsel, who is the lawyer for our university, said, what research is out there? Do you know of any? 4 years ago, I didn't know of any. So he challenged me to go ahead and do some research. So got to talking to some people, and these individuals make up our team. And so luckily, Dr. Laura Bozeman said, I'm on the team. And then there is a mandate that we go ahead and involve as many people on the team as possible. So the team members are Dr. Phoebe Okongu. Will it work, really? Yes. Thank you. Dr. Phoebe Okongu, a doctoral student, Tay Wen, Chinamso Igawagam, and excuse me, Gabriella Davis is our videographer, and Jim Gaddis is the adult with visual impairment. This project was funded by Texas Tech University College of Education for the study. The objectives basically are to tell us what we did and what we learned. We did 4 studies. Really, I'm lying. It was really 3 studies. But guess what got in the way? Can you imagine? The last few years, what got in the way? COVID, the pandemic. Oh, darn. So we went ahead and made it 4 studies. So basically, what we're looking at, what are the skills that visually impaired O&M specialists use? That's it. Non-visual skills, teaching strategies, resources. So, as I told you, we had 4 studies. The first thing we want, but not really, 3, okay? So, the first study looked at what do university training programs and O&M, the faculty, do in order to accommodate people, scholars, students in the program who are visually impaired. What have they done? So we had 18 O&M specialist faculty respond who taught blindfold simulation courses. The cane stuff is what I like to say to my neighbors when I work in my neighborhood. And basically, as I said, we're looking about teaching strategies, non-visual skills, and accommodations used to teach students with visual impairment. Our second study, we wanted to hear the voice. It's important to hear the voice of the people under study. What do they have to tell us? So we were lucky, we certified, we got 15 certified NOMCs, the National O&M Certificate Program, instructors who are blind, we surveyed them. They gave us data, result. Then we went ahead and we combined, remember, COVID is just hitting. And so what we did is we split up this one study that we got funding for, and we interviewed via Zoom 8 O&M instructors who were visually impaired. Then we went ahead, and of that 8, we went ahead and went to these individuals, 3 people, and we videotaped them teaching their students. Everybody kind of with me? Okay. Now, keep in mind, we have the voice. I am happy to say that from the first study to the 4th study, it just went ahead and reiterated over and over the results that we have come up with, which you're waiting to hear about, okay, because it's so exciting. It is. What we came up with is structured discovery learning was really the core of what our participants were reporting and using. So what is that? Immersion training, this is what they told us. Non-visual skills for O&M, meaning they blindfolded everyone, using sleep shades. What was really important is having their students learn problem-solving skills. Their job was to go ahead and provide situations during O&M lessons where they would learn to problem solve. Now, that did not prohibit the instructor from providing adequate hierarchy of questions in order for that student to learn to problem solve in situations, because we're not always around, right? Hopefully not, we go away. And a longer cane, NFB cane, which some people are here, group lessons, being responsible as a visually impaired person for one's own safety, learning how to do that, embracing blindness. I am blind. Not necessarily I am a person who is blind, which for a lot of us who write for journals and chapters in books, things like that, we use what we call PC language, right? Person who's blind, and fostering autonomy. So Ryan said, we definitely use the blindfold for any students who have residual vision. That really is instrumental in them developing their own senses. So with the use of the blindfold, then as they learn how to adapt and adjust to the outdoor travel, then the auditory senses, the olfactory senses, play a part at times in helping to figure out their environment, overall, whoa, and local something, something, something. Okay? So, oh, there it is. Is it there again? Trying to freak me out. Overall and total development of sensory array. And the students really become confident travelers. Once again, looking at one's own safety, one's own autonomy. Auditory monitoring. So it's broken up into different types of monitoring. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful team member, which we wouldn't have been able to do it, Dr. Nora Bozeman. Give her a hand. Thank you. Which one? Right here. Go back. Yeah. All right. And then wait 1001. Yes.
Okay. All right. So as Dr. Griffin-Shirley said, we had themes that emerged about these non-visual skills. And I will say that what we observed, quite a bit of it was auditory monitoring, auditory information that these instructors were using to determine traffic flow. I mean, we all used our ears, if we're able to give us information about traffic flow on a lesson, but they did as well. To monitor the instructional space, really paying attention to that auditory information. And then, of course, what we saw over and over again was how they were able to use that auditory skill to monitor cane tip placement for different skills. Was it contacting the surface as they expected? All right. Yep, wrong way. We have a video here. You see the gentleman, if you're able to see this, you see the gentleman who is the learner in this picture. And behind him, who's very hard to see right now, is the blind instructor. And she is also carrying a cane. And this will demonstrate, hopefully, if we're able to hear it well enough, she is monitoring his cane width, his cane arc width, because she's standing behind him and she can hear sort of when it's outside that widest part of his body. That's what she's listening for. I waited more than 1 second. Is that the problem? Right? So I know that's not from the perspective of standing behind him as the student, but you can still hopefully get the picture of what she's listening for. And it's very clear as well. Yes. Okay, why is this such a struggle for me? I don't want it again. I'm pushing the button. Just next. Yeah, I think that ship has sailed. If we could just go to the next slide, it'd be great. Thank you. Thank you. So Brian, one of our participants, again, we use pseudonyms, so there's really not a Brian, about auditory monitoring. He said, I'm monitoring all of those cane aspects, as well as the sign of the sound of the cane that the cane is giving off in terms of texture. If it's dragging on a hard, rough surface, concrete, I know that they are in fact not shorelining over to the grass because there's no hiccup in the noise and the noise becomes soft. He's describing what he's listening for when the student is shorelining. Texture, concrete, then the softer over to the grass line in this case. Okay, I waited my 1 second. There we go. All right, it seems fairly clear. Jim is his name, right? The gentleman. Jim did a really good job of shorelining. You could hear the texture of the concrete, then you could hear the softer sound or the hiccup in the sound. I like the way they described it when he would contact the grass. And then here toward the very end of this video clip, you did hear sidewalk, sidewalk, or footpath, footpath. So you could tell the difference. Yeah, I thought he was going to get them. Thank you. Okay, so another way of monitoring, oh, he has them. Another way of monitoring is one of our participants, Diana. She has remaining vision that she uses when she teaches, although she has a vision impairment. She said, I stay a little closer to students than a typically sighted O&M instructor would, just so that I can see them a little bit better, which makes sense. Tactile monitoring. We had a few instances, certainly, of tactile monitoring where the instructor may touch the learner's hand to check out how they're holding the cane. Also, we did see some where the instructor was touching the student's cane with the instructor's cane, a tactile location in that aspect. Other examples of tactile monitoring is we saw it a lot, actually. The instructor quite often would put, like I was observing a man who was the instructor, and he would put both of his hands on top of the student's shoulders. He would be behind the student and put both hands on top of her shoulders to not only see how she's aligned at the street crossing because she's getting ready to cross the street, but also we also saw the instructors align themselves with the students by using that. It makes perfect sense. So here in the picture, we have the learner who is standing at the curb with her cane off of the curb, waiting, listening to the traffic. And then the instructor behind her, who is blind, also has the cane forward and dropped off the curb. So getting that space. Just like in many O&M lessons that you might see or do, the instructors stayed behind the student most of the time, somewhere behind, whether they're behind and off to the side, whatever. But that's what we observed as well for instructor positioning. There were times when the instructor would get closer to the student. And those make sense to me anyway. Some of those examples were when analyzing intersections. Just like in the previous photograph, the instructor is right behind the student to monitor in case the person steps off too soon or something like that. So we saw that. Also, we saw the instructor get closer to the student when the student was negotiating a car park or wide open space. We saw that when they were locating curb or there was a drop off, the instructor would get closer. Correcting the students or giving the students feedback when they were veering maybe toward the parallel street. That would be another time we'd see the positioning change. Instructors quite often place themselves between the students and the parallel street. I do that sometimes, so certainly makes sense. And then we also observe the instructor putting the cane between the student and the parallel street, sort of as at the last minute if the student were veering toward the parallel street. I know that's kind of hard to describe, but it made perfect sense when you experience it. It's very light. It's not something that would trip the student. It's just a very light little tap that says, yeah, you fear too much. So. All right, there we go. We also asked about equipment. What equipment do you use? And certainly all of our participants did not use all of these things, but these were just some of the things they reported. A giant key ring on a carabiner, and that would be for the learner to carry, frankly, just to make some noise. If it's really crowded and the instructor wanted to sort of know where that person was, you know, if they were getting too far away or too much ahead of them, that would be a noisemaker. Also a small bell like you might have on a pet collar, just that little bell, again, for a location sort of sound. They used compasses, tactile compasses, braille compasses, cell phone, at least one. He would use a cell phone and then give his student a cell phone just in case as he said, he auditorily lost track of her, or he actually has some vision too, or you know, visually lost track that he could call or she could call him. Same thing with a walkie-talkie or a two-way radio, just a way for communication if the distance is too much. A clicker, I did not observe that, but I think some of our participants used or gave the learner a clicker, and then certainly tactile maps. This picture is, what is that? Is that a braille? What is the thing? Yeah, braille compass. Yeah, that's what it is. And a Wheatley talking company. Thank you. And then a Wheatley tactile kit, but you know, you can make your own. More equipment. Maybe. We may not know. There we go. Certainly, some of our students, instructors who had some remaining vision used a monocular, mainly to just gather information about the environment when they were previewing a route. Used GPS, YouTube tiles, Bluetooth tiles, the IRA app. And I'm talking about the instructors using those apps just to get information, again, about the environment. Embossers, electronic or braille format. And then all of the people, we surveyed more people than we were able to observe, because even though COVID was easing up a bit, not everybody was either allowing people like us who didn't work at that agency to be there, even though they were opening up to do services. So everybody we did observe used a rigid cane. Just such a pregnant pause here. Oh, point it at screen, not that screen, this screen. Okay. We will do that. It's my thumb, it's broken. It doesn't work. Oh, there we go. This fell into our category of accommodations. It probably doesn't seem like an accommodation, but one, maybe two actually, said that they used a private driver, not just to get them to the lesson because the people don't drive, but none of ours who we observed drove, but also just to use that sighted driver to gather information about the environment. That was not everybody by any means. And one, I believe, used a guide dog, again, not when he was teaching, but when he was gathering information in the environment. All right. I don't know how the time's going. No clue. 1 minute. Okay. All right. So we have a question, just a question. And this question is being proposed from, happens to be a totally blind, certified orientation mobility specialist. And he just asked, how does any person monitor the safety of persons with vision who are visually impaired while teaching O&M skills? And I don't know if you want to try to discuss that, but I think the input here is that we all use the senses we have, whatever they are, and we do it in different ways. Nora may monitor someone in a different way than I do. I guarantee you, as I've gotten older, hearing's not quite as good, and I may not, I may use something else to try to monitor someone, but we can all do it.